Yeah.
Okay, there I go. I did it. Because the last time I did this, we didn't record the session and we lost it. So I thank you.
All right. Today's date is May 25th, 2025. We have a Israeli Palestinian federal government simulation with David Malovni. We are proposing a federal government, a common government for the people of Israel and Palestine that reside in Israel, Palestine, includes the area of Gaza, the West Bank, Jerusalem, and Israel, 14 million people, for the purpose of making peace. We are proposing a government that will be independent and separate from the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. A common government that would be legitimate because it would give the entire area of Israel, Palestine, the right to vote and to participate and to be elected based on equality, based on democracy, separation between government and religion, with a common parliament, president and vice president in the executive branch, and a common judicial branch. All branches are separate from each other, and the entire federal government separate and independent from the Israeli and the Palestinian government. So that it is clear, we are not proposing and we are not asking for the Israeli or the Palestinian government to create the federal government. We proposing that the federal government will be created without any participation by the Israeli or the Palestinian governments, because it's important to have independence for this government, and it should not be controlled by either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. We have a website where you can read the Constitution in 3 languages: English, Arabic, and Hebrew. The Constitution explains the structure of the federal government, the 3 branches in the federal government, and how the federal government will interact, if necessary, with the Israeli and the Palestinian government. Personally, I do not think that the Israeli or the Palestinian governments are legitimate governments in Israel, Palestine, because they are not democratically elected by the people of Israel, Palestine, whom it controls to a large extent by the Israelis and government, and to a limited extent by the Palestinian government. But regardless, they are not legitimately democratic government because they control people who are prohibited from electing the government. You could reach me at josephabasar@gmail.com, and I will be happy to respond to any questions you have. Our guest today is David Malovni.
Yeah, right.
All right, let me just clear my screen so I can read his bio without any interruption. David Malovni is the visionary founder of 2027, the movement to exit the state of Palestine, a bold initiative dedicated to addressing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict through a pragmatic, please unmute, through a pragmatic and legally grounded approach. The movement calls for a defined timeline. Please unmute. The movement calls for a defined timeline by the year 2027 for Israeli citizens residing in the state of Palestine to return to the state of Israel, recognizing both political realities and international legal frameworks. The initiative aims to chart a clear and responsible path towards resolution by prioritizing legal clarity and demographic separation. A passionate and relentless social activist, David is also the founder of the nonprofit organization Smart Aviation, which has empowered thousands of airline passengers to assert their rights. From 2015 to 2022, he spearheaded a transformative movement in Israel's aviation sector, redefining consumer protection standards and setting new legal precedents. By taking some of the world's largest airlines in court and through public campaigns, David's advocacy directly led to the recovery of tens of millions of shekels for both Israeli and European travelers. His work has become a landmark case study in citizen-driven reform and legal activism. I met with David, and he chose to discuss these issues: teaching tolerance and understanding, common police force, and taxation system for the federal government and the Israeli and the Palestinian government. I also agreed to allow David to make a short presentation regarding his 2027 movement to exit the state of Palestine. After the simulation is over, we will allow David about 10 minutes to make his presentation regarding his 2027 movement to exit the state of Palestine. Our next guest on June 8th is Mubarak Awad. He is the founder of Nonviolence International, a global NGO with UN consultative status. On July 6th, we will have Professor Elazar Barkan, who is a professor of international and public affairs at Columbia University. On June 22nd, we will have Roni Kedar. She's a British-born Israeli peace activist, an author and longtime resident of Moshav Netiv HaAsara, an agricultural village situated just a few hundred meters from the Gaza border. On July 20th, we will have Nimat Shama. She's a West Bank resident, and she is a voice for dialogue, justice, and hope. On August 3rd, we will have a little different meeting. We will have a combined legislative effort. In the audience, you will be invited to suggest legislative agenda for the federal government, and we will create the legislation live with your suggestions. We will debate the issues and hopefully be able to create a legislation that will be acceptable to the federal government and will be able to pass the Constitution. We are proposing a federal government, and we are, in this simulation, we are showing how the IPC could thread the needle, meaning it could pass legislation that would be acceptable to both the Palestinians and the Israeli governments. We are just demonstrating how it could be done. We are not actually making proposal for a legislation. It will be up to the people when this government is elected. The parliament members, Palestinians and Israelis, they are familiar with the geography, with the demography, and they will be able to decide together what legislation to pass. We are encouraging you now in this simulation to ask questions. Nasir will be administrating the questions and will convey those questions to us if you put them on the chat. But you are encouraged to ask questions about what we are proposing. The more questions, the better, because it clarifies to people the concept of a federal government for the entire population. This is a short movie that explains the concept. It's two minutes long.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations. And instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. And the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So we are actually simulating what's in this movie. Let's do a pre-simulation survey, which we will compare to a post-simulation survey. Do you support a common federal government for the people of Israel, the West Bank, Gaza? Nasir, could you put the survey so people could vote? So please vote yes or no on this survey, and we will compare it. We usually get a very high yes vote, and it's because the people that are participating in this simulation have participated before and are supportive of this. Okay, so could you publish the vote? 25 out of 26 voted yes. That's 96%. And one person voted no. That's 4%. Hopefully, we will be able to win that person at the end of the simulation to change his mind. The Confederation and federal government exist worldwide to address specific conflicts. Some governments refer to themselves as a federal government, while others use the term confederation. Definitions are not fixed and evolve with changing realities. In the context of Israel-Palestine, the IPC defines confederation and federation as a shared government for the people of Israel and Palestine, guided by democratic principles outlined in the IPC Constitution, which can be found at www.ipconfederation.org. So we define confederation and federation in the same way. This simulation is making the assumption that the parliament has already deliberated on the legislation. So we are not deliberating on the legislation, how to come up with the correct text for we are just presenting a legislation to show the process, the exact way of getting there is not that important at this time. The importance is to show that the federal government could thread the needle for both Israel and Palestine. And we will have, I believe, on August 3rd, a specific simulation that you, the audience, we will be able to formulate a legislation acceptable to most parliament members. This is the heart of the simulation. We are making assumptions. The first assumption is that we were able to obtain major funding to create a year-long campaign to promote the election. That means that we had the funding to explain to the people of Israel and Palestine, and really to the world, the benefit of a federal government, how it could make peace and how it could benefit the people themselves and will not harm the security or identity of either the Israeli or the Palestinian people. In fact, it would elevate the security and identity of the Palestinian and the Israeli people without harming them one bit. You will have to assume that we were able to create a platform for Palestinians and Israelis to vote and to run in the election. That's the first assumption. The second assumption is that 14 million people were given the right to vote, with the exclusion of children in the area of Israel and the West Bank and Gaza. You will also have to assume, for the purpose of this simulation, that 5 million people voted, 3 million Palestinian voted, and 2 million Israelis voted, 5 million out of the eligible voters. You will also have to assume in this simulation that the president received 1.5 million votes. So you will have to assume that me, Joseph, was elected president for the entire area by 1.5 million votes, and a Palestinian lady received 1.3 million votes. We will rotate in 2 years. She will become president, I will become vice president, but we both have constitutional duties throughout our 4 years terms. You will also have to assume that 300 parliament members were elected, representing 300 districts. Each district is 47,000 people. This is the foundation of our simulation. From now on, we are going to assume these facts as a reality. Before we go to David, I want to ask you, the audience, do you have any questions regarding these assumptions? Do you have any questions? All right, I hear no questions. Let's go to David. David, do you have any questions or comments regarding these assumptions?
Yes, first of all, I have to apologize because I'm staying in a bit noisy place, and it's a bit difficult because I have to go to some place near some of event that I have to be there. But let's talk about the assumption. The assumption here doesn't related or think about that what all this project needs. They need at least 10 or 20,000 people from each side that willing to fight for this one, and even to die, because it wouldn't go with no fight. The government would allow you to deal with maybe education, maybe religious, maybe culture, maybe stuff like this, but they wouldn't allow you to collect taxes or stuff like this. So there is a big obstacle that you have to go above him, which both the government here in Israel and in the state of Palestine can rule a law against all this project if this project will touch taxes or another thing that they think is belong to the regime. From my point of view, in legal, if you say, if you look on legal side, could be a lot of problem, and it wouldn't even start without 10,000 of people from both sides on the streets, willing to fight and even willing to die. Thank you.
All right, what specific area in the assumption you think is not or achievable, or do you think that all of these criteria specified in the assumptions are achievable?
This is what you write here. It's not very difficult to achieve, but
Okay.
it's not what we need
All right,
to
so
start. You
so
can
you're
say
saying,
my assumption is that will be, let's say, few fish in my swimming pool.
right,
But if you want to make a new regime here, which is going underneath both regime of State of Palestine and State of Israel, you need many, many people that, what we said in Hebrew, with blood in their eyes, that willing to change the system. It's not theoretical that you, what we have, you and me, we have laptop, mouse, and Wi-Fi. What the regime have, they have military, they have police, they have Shabak, they have Mossad. You can't win them.
all right, so you're basically saying that these assumptions are achievable in theory, but they are not achievable in practice. That's, I think, what you're saying.
Can't say that.
Sorry?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Are you willing to participate in this simulation, given these assumptions, acting as if these assumptions have been achieved?
I didn't understand what
Are
you mean.
are you willing to go on with
Yes,
in this simulation, making the assumptions, pretending that these assumptions have been achieved?
yeah, I'm willing.
All right.
I want to say another thing. Your idea is very good idea, but only for education, for religious problem, and for maybe say culture misunderstanding between the Israeli and the Palestinian, but not to make a federation or something which is political, if you understand me.
Yeah, you're saying that a confederation government is a good idea only if it passes legislation regarding education, regarding things that both sides will agree to, but would not a good idea if it somehow conflicts with the sovereignty of the Israeli and the Palestinian governments.
It's very good idea, but not in this time and not in this situation.
All right. Okay, but from now on during the simulation, we are accepting these assumptions as a reality.
Okay, I agree.
Okay, so I am the president of the entire area. I was elected by 1.5 million votes. And now I'm going to be asking the audience to make their decision whether they are Israeli or Palestinian parliament members in this simulation. So I think Dan came on, but Nasir, can you ask the audience, please make a choice. Are you a Palestinian parliament member or Israeli parliament member in this simulation? And David, you can also make a choice whether you are an Israeli or Palestinian parliament member.
I did, thank you.
Okay. What are you?
I'm Israeli.
Okay, you're an Israeli parliament member. Terrific. Okay. And what area do you represent?
Between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, the area by the airport.
Okay. So you are, let's assume, so you are in the airport district. All right. So giving you 5 more seconds to make your choice. We have, can you publish the votes? We have 13 Palestinian parliament members, and we have 11 Israeli parliament members. One of them is David. So now we have the election completed. We have a president. I am the president, and we have a parliament, and you are in the parliament. We need, in order to demonstrate the simulation, we need someone to be Prime Minister of Israel. I saw Jeff Warner is here. Jeff, are
Joseph.
you are you going to be the Prime Minister of Israel in this simulation?
I'm here, and I'll be the Prime Minister of Israel.
Yeah. Joseph,
Okay. Yes.
if I may recommend, we have a person with us. I think he could. There will be no better representation of a Palestinian president. I hate to put you on the spot, Mr. Nasser al-Kidwa, but would you volunteer to be the acting president of the Palestinian Authority for this simulation? Unmute yourself, Mr. Nasser. Unmute yourself. You're muted.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Well, first of all, I have to say that this is the first time I attend, so maybe it's the right of other people to take the responsibilities until I get more accustomed. Because I have some questions. Because I noticed, for instance, that we are talking about confederation between Israel and Palestine, and then in another places we speak of a confederation between Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza, which is different. And of course, there is some lack of clarity about the status of Jerusalem. We are not clear about the fact that there should be two entities, two states, and then we speak about the confederation between the two states. So anyway,
right,
I
so-
don't want to block any of this. I want just to listen and,
Okay, that's fine.
some interest
So-
in this.
Okay.
Okay.
If that's the case, Joseph, if I could do it, or you can ask somebody else. I thought it would be interesting because I think his experience with the
No,
Palestinian
thank you. I
Authority-
appreciate that.
All right.
Thank you, of course.
Okay. So Nasir, you'll be the president of Palestine,
Yes.
and Jeff is the Prime Minister of Israel. I am the president of the entire area of Israel, Palestine, from the river to the sea. I was elected by 1.5 million votes. And you, the audience, are a parliament member of the federal government that is independent and separate from the Israeli government. I want you to please remain intellectually honest throughout the simulation. Remember that you represent your specific districts, that your district may be Palestinian, may be Israeli, or may be both Palestinians and Israelis, because the Palestinian could vote for Israeli, Israeli could vote for a Palestinian. All right. Now that we have the election and we have people elected, the first order of business is for us to pass a constitution. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the constitution?
Yes. We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and a freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
All right, so this is a short version of the long constitution. The main thing is that we do not intend to undermine the Palestinian or the Israeli government. We are a separate government that intends to work with those two governments. And whatever those two governments agree between them, such as two-state or one-state or any other agreement, constitutionally, we are required to accept those agreements. Furthermore, if we pass legislation that violates the sovereignty of the Israeli or the Palestinian governments, then we give them a veto power, and they can, either one of them can nullify the legislation by issuing a veto. Before I go to David, does anyone have any questions regarding the Constitution? All right, hearing no questions, let's go to David. David, do you have any questions or comments? Or Shlomo, you have a question. Go ahead. Sorry. Shlomo, what is your question regarding the Constitution?
No, not regarding the Constitution, but things that other people talk about. I can make it very short. One an answer to Nasser is that we can just ignore the West Bank, Gaza, and everything we can do from the river to the sea, and many zones, and then each zone depends. There can be a majority Palestinians or majority Israelis, and so we don't necessarily. So the government, so the prime minister of whatever, whoever represents the Palestinians doesn't necessarily attach to territory, and the same with the Israel. That's one thought. And thought number two about what David Malovni said. We may need to. He's right. Israel will not allow it once you have a million, thousands of people. No. So maybe we should consider doing it outside of Israel. We have an outside government, has been done in the past. So it will be a federal government for the whole region outside of.
Shlomo, you are assuming that they will not agree to it. You may be correct. I'm not arguing with that. But the question is, how could they block it? You
By
can't.
court and by law.
I'm sorry?
By court and by law.
All right. So if they pass legislation prohibiting the creation of a federal government, they will have basically exposed themselves to their own failure to give peace to the Palestinians and the Israeli people. They will have to explain what is wrong with this constitution. They will have to write specific legislation that would negate the constitution of the federal government. If they choose to do that, that in reality could be the best thing for the creation of a federal government, because it would expose the Israeli and the Palestinian governments to their failure, and it would give huge notoriety to the federal government and its positive aspects. So since they have not passed any laws regarding this up to now, we have to deal with what is on the table right now. There is no law. Once there is a law, we'll have to deal with that law and respond to it.
Okay. Okay. One sentence. They are now committing genocide in front of the whole world. They don't give a damn. So you think they will give a damn about opinions about this and that? But anyway, I'm for it. You know me. I'm very much for it. Let us play the game.
All right.
I want to
David,
ask
do
a
you have,
question.
do
Can I ask
do you
a
have any
question?
more comments regarding the Constitution?
My comment is that look very nice, but from my point of view, it's what I said before. It's look very nice on the computer, but to make it a real, you have to go by foot to the moon and back, and I don't have any comments on this constitution because it's not
All right.
a reality for me.
Jacob, I have a question. Can I interrupt here?
Oh, yes,
Hello.
hi.
My name is Yitzhak Adijas, Professor Yitzhak Adijas.
Yes, hi. I invited you to speak. And I called you, by the way. I don't know if you got my message. Hi, Ishak.
I will be very happy to speak because I have a parallel idea I've been promoting in Israel very strongly, and I get a lot of interesting comments. Here is my question to you. I think it is extremely good idea that we need some common envelope to unite the two nations. Otherwise, with the climate that we have of hatred, they're going to continue fighting each other. So the separation of two states mechanistically will not work. What we need to be is separate but united. That's why this federal government is a great, great idea. However, it will not work if it becomes too strong. It will not work if it starts interrupting too much. And that's usually what governments do. They have a life of their own and they grow by themselves. How do we make it the minimal rather than the maximal? The minimal necessary. In my judgment, we only need 4 institutions that are common to the two states. Only 4. And
All right,
nothing more. And I will tell you what the 4 are, and then I will stop. What we need, in my judgment, are 4 institutions that achieve 2 goals, only 2 goals. One is security, so we don't attack each other. And 2, creating mutual interdependency, economic interdependency, so there is a reason why to be together. And the 4 institutions are common police, common Ministry of Education, common Ministry of Industry to encourage cooperative businesses together. This is what is really critical. And minimize anything beyond that might create interruption in the sovereignty of the two states and will not be accepted. I finished.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Yeah, we generally agree. That's what we call threading the needle, making sure that both sides are not, the sovereignty of both sides is not jeopardized. Let's go to the Palestinian parliament. Now, you need to ratify the Constitution. If you do not ratify the Constitution, you are expelled from the parliament. Palestinian parliament members, please ratify the Constitution. Palestinian parliament members, please ratify the Constitution. Okay.
So Joseph, you asked for a vote from the Palestinian parliaments, but you didn't mention that if they do not ratify the parliament, that they would.
I did.
Oh,
mention
okay. I'm
it.
sorry.
I
I
said that
stepped away
if
for
you
a
do
second.
not ratify, you are expelled from the
Okay.
parliament. All
Okay,
right.
I got you.
Publish the votes. 92%. One person refused to ratify the Constitution. That person, could you identify yourself?
Hi,
person-
it was me. Sorry, I was trying to read the Constitution again at the same time before ratifying it. I do ratify it.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please ratify the Constitution, Israeli parliament members. Okay. Again, publish the vote. One person did not ratify the Constitution. Could you please identify yourself? The person who did not ratify the Constitution. The Israeli parliament members who did not ratify, please identify yourself. All right, that person is expelled from the parliament. Every parliament in a democracy requires all parliament members elected to ratify the Constitution. So you are expelled, you are not allowed to vote, and the people who are, the person who received the second number of votes in your district, as long as he ratified the Constitution, will be the parliament member in your district. All right, so this is a momentous event in the history of Israel-Palestine. We ratified the Constitution, we had an election, we have a president, we have parliament. This undermined the existing government's use of fear and hate to justify their action. It removes the collective stigma against Israelis and Palestinians that we are unable to make peace, that we were born to be enemies forever. It gives the parliament and the president, me, huge political capital to demand from governments and organizations all over the world to support us and contribute to us. It gives the Israeli and the Palestinian people new self-image and proves that Israelis and Palestinians are not a monolithic society. Some Palestinians and some Israelis accepted this federal government, and we are not a monolithic society. Let's go to the first legislative project that we have, which is granting a veto power to the separate governments. This is what Itzhak was talking about, not interfering with the sovereignty of Israel and Palestine. Let's, Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
Granting a veto power to the separate governments. The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel and Palestine from the river to the sea. We recognize the Palestinian and Israeli governments and are seeking their cooperation to implement our vision for peace by giving them a veto. We will do our utmost to satisfy the essential needs of each government. We are pleading with the Palestinian and Israeli public to understand that while we would like to pass the best legislation possible to improve their lives, under these constraints, a perfect legislation is not possible. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel on issues in which it is indispensable, the Palestinian government on issues in which it is indispensable. In the event of changes in the entirety of the Israeli or Palestinian governments, this legislation may be amended or repealed, subject to the IPC Constitution. The Parliament will decide on indispensability. Vetoes may be bestowed individually or collectively.
So we are not trying to undermine those governments. In fact, we are giving them a veto power on issues that they are indispensable. So, for example, if we vote on issues relating to land, to police force, to removal of the wall, they are indispensable and they get a veto power. However, if we deal with issues relating to our budget or ratifying the Constitution or appointing IPC minister or judges, they are dispensable. They would not get a veto power on these issues, but they will get a veto power on issues that they are indispensable. Why do we give them a veto power? Because a veto power provides a safety net for both sides. It increases the likelihood of Israelis and Palestinians participating. It decreases the Israeli and the Palestinian government's opposition to the federal government because it is not created to undermine those governments. It's not created to create insecurity to governments. It removes any claims that we are a subversive organization and it gives legal protection to the candidates because they are not trying to undermine the governments. It compels the IPC to thread the needle. In other words, to find legislation that is not objectionable to both sides, and it creates a platform for negotiation with a deadline. Before I go to David, does anyone have any question regarding this veto power? David will speak, and then we will vote on this legislation. Any questions? All right. Hearing no questions, David, do you have
No,
any?
I have a comment, not a question.
Yes.
Look, I think the problem is the implementation of this program. The program is great. I think it's a great idea. How do you implement it? That's what the problem is going to be. And the problem is that in Israel, we have so much conflict between the liberal and the religious that they cannot agree between themselves what they want. Now you want them to agree on vetoing something somebody else decides. It increases the complexity of decision making. That's what worries me. We should have the federal government be minimalistic. Otherwise, the Israeli conflicts are not going to accept anything else.
Well, the thing is, whatever disagreement internally exists between certain fractions in the Israeli society or the Palestinian society is irrelevant to us. We are separate and independent of the Israeli and the Palestinian government. We are creating this federal government, whether or not there is an internal conflict in the Israeli or the Palestinian parliament. Some religious people in both societies will support the federal government, some will not. Some secular people will support and some will not. But this will be independent and separate.
You're absolutely great, Jacob. Question is, how are you going to establish this federal government? Who is going to establish it?
Okay, it's going back to the assumptions that we were able to obtain major funding for a year-long campaign promoting the election. We are talking about $100 million that we think could create it.
Which means the Israelis and the Palestinians have to vote that they agree to have this federal government.
No, it would be done whether or not the Israeli and the Palestinian governments vote for it. It's not dependent on whether they agree to it or not.
So,
Meaning,
you were telling me about $100 million. That's a how. I'm asking the question, who?
if
How?
we're able to raise $100 million,
Right, okay.
then we can do the elections online, whether or not the Israeli or the Palestinian governments support it or not.
You're saying the following thing. You have $100 million, then you go both to the Palestinian and to the Israeli population and grassroots voting. Do they want federal government or not?
No, we actually have the election. We are not proposing having a survey whether they want it or not. No government in the world was created after a survey. We are proposing to have the election. The election is the ultimate survey, and we will have 300 more than 300 candidates in 300 districts. We will have people running for president and vice president, and we will actually have the election without the need to do a survey before. The ultimate survey.
Let me repeat what you say because I want to understand you. You have $100 million. Then you go both to the Israeli and the Palestinian population. I'm not arguing with you. I'm trying to understand you.
Yes.
And you're asking them to vote for a federal parliament.
No, we are asking them to vote for their parliament member in their district. We create 300 districts. We say, let's say you live in.
But the institution, you're having here an institution, federal government institution with rights and decisions that they have. who is going to establish it? Who is going to make it legitimate?
The people who will vote once the election takes place. If 5 million people vote, then the federal government obtained its legitimacy from the people of Israel and Palestine.
That is, I think, a wonderful idea, but that's going to be a hell of a tough time because now you have the politicians on the Israeli side and the politicians on the Palestinian side not necessarily agreeing to give the power to some federal government. Are going to object to all this vote left and right.
Correct. We are not asking for them to give the power. These are failed governments to begin with. They are not legitimate government.
I understand, but they're going to interfere. The political parties in Israel, I don't know about the Palestinian side, are going to interfere with this election process. They're going to interfere.
Okay,
They're going to fight it. They're going to fight it. It's going to be a big fight.
Look,
That's what was saying. They were saying it's about blood in
Let
their
me
eyes.
say a few things.
Go ahead, David.
First of all, I agree with most what Yitzhak Adijas
Yes.
Adijas said. But let's look on this initiative as an intellectual exercise. To give veto to someone or to have relationship with the government of Israel or the government of State of Palestine, you need authorities, you need power. And I think this is the main obstacle here. What's we read on the screen of my laptop? It's look very nice, but if you wish that it will be happened, you need much more than a good idea on my screen in my laptop. You need people on the street. You need people with fire in their hearts. And you need people that willing to sacrifice themselves to this idea. Without this, it wouldn't be happened.
So you're saying
not 100 million and not even 100 billion will make this program happen. It's not questions of money. It's questions.
I agree with David. You see, the problem here is implementation, Jacob. The problem is implementation. I think you have to make it easier. The moment you make it very heavy, the more heavier it is, the more difficult it is to implement it. Let me give you my suggestion.
Mr. Ishaq and David, could I recommend something? Could we do simulation? And then in the after periods, let us talk about the criticism, because
intellectual exercise, and I'm willing to go
because part of simulation is you need imagination to get to this, and I know that there's obstacles to get to this, but we kind of need a little bit of imagination to continue, and then in the discussion time we can go about with this kind of stuff.
All right, let's have the Palestinian parliament members please vote on granting a veto power. Okay, publish the vote. 93% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Israeli parliament members. Publish the vote. 90% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. All right, let's go to our next legislation, and that's teaching tolerance and understanding. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the legislation.
Teaching tolerance and understanding. Both educational systems making both sides aware of the history and political narrative of both sides in public schools. Devote a certain number of hours for both sides to teach the history of the Israelis and the Palestinians. Prioritizing teaching Arabic and Hebrew in public schools to achieve proficiency of both languages by Israeli and Palestinian students. Create a mutual task force to ensure the teaching of both languages. Educators to draft textbooks together and arrange for a regular exchange of teachers. Public media on both sides to provide fair and equal coverage daily for teaching tolerance. IPC as facilitator to ensure that both sides are fairly represented. We hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government and the Palestinian governments. We bestow upon them a veto power which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
All right. Does anyone have any question regarding this legislation?
I agree 100%.
Okay, let's have Palestinian parliament members please vote on this legislation. Palestinian parliament members. Publish the votes. 92% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament member. Israeli parliament members, please vote. Israeli parliament members, publish the votes. 100% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Mr. President of Palestine, are you going to veto this legislation?
No, no,
President-
we currently in our education system, we have Hebrew courses being taught in our universities as well as our high schools, and we also welcome this type of measure.
All right.
No veto.
Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Prime Minister of Israel, are you going to veto this legislation?
State of Israel will not veto this legislation. The state of Israel already teaches tolerance, and we teach Arabic as well as Hebrew in our public schools. It's the PA and Hamas that are the
Mr.
ones
Prime
who-
Minister, we're not. This is not a platform for your agenda. You're only being asked to veto or not veto. You said you're not going to veto this legislation. Thank you. And this legislation has passed, and we are going to go on with our simulation. All right. Common police force. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
Yes, for our common police force, equal number of Israeli and Palestinians at each level. Distinct uniforms for the common police force different from the Israeli or Palestinian police force. Independent of the Israeli and Palestinian security forces. In cooperation with the separate Israeli and Palestinian authorities. Address sensitive religious, cultural, and language requirements. Giving each side exclusive management of the holy site, but giving the common police force the right to enforce entry and exit routes to the holy sites. Facilitate the operation of the joint economic zones. Investigate corruption by administrators who refuse to teach tolerance. Investigate allegations of intolerance and racist hate crime against Israelis or Palestinians. Assist in managing checkpoints. Guard the parliament building and threats against members of the Confederation. Facilitate access to and safety of religious facilities. We hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government and the Palestinian. We bestow upon them a veto power which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this legislation before we go to David? David, you have any comments regarding this legislation?
It's look nice, especially for East Jerusalem. East Jerusalem need some kind of formula like this. But I think at the 10 or 20 or 30 next years, it wouldn't work.
Why not?
Because Israel and the state of Palestine have to be, from my point of view, of course, they couldn't be mixed together with the same police force.
They're not mixed together. This is a separate and independent police force. It's not Israeli or Palestinian.
But for this force, I said theoretically, need a specific area where they can work and make their job. If, for example, Palestinian policemen couldn't come to Tel Aviv and to do some what police do, if you understand what I mean.
It's not a Palestinian policeman, it's a federal police officer, and it's made out of Palestinians and Israelis. So there will be Palestinians and Israelis in the common police force, just like in the federal government. You have in the United States, you have a federal government all over the United States, in addition to state police force. Dealing with issues relating to the federal government. It's not, if you are committing a crime in Tel Aviv, that violates the Israeli law. But if you commit a crime that violates...
What kind of crime you mean?
Well,
what will be the federal crime, for example?
For example,
what can be a federal crime?
I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a high school teacher in whatever, either Israel or Palestine, that refuses to teach tolerance and commit hate crimes against one side or another. That could be in violation of the specific laws of the federal government, and it would be enforced by the federal government.
May I intervene? I worked for many years in Brussels with the EU, so I can't avoid thinking in terms of how the European Parliament works when I look at this IPC. In Europe, such a legislation would happen only by consent of the governments. They would define what the common police force would do. They would decide exactly the cases, when they can intervene and when they cannot. This would be all a discussion that would come from an interaction between the European Parliament and member states. And after the legislation is passed, there would have to be implementing regulations that would have to be also they would have to also go through all sorts of national approvals. So all the details and the exact specific competencies of this police force would be decided in this complicated but necessary process. And the important thing here is a concept. The concept that we can have a body that is above or different from the government of Israel and the government of Palestine, who can make legislation in the interests of both communities, and that both governments eventually come to at least a level of minimum understanding, hoping that in the future this can be built up. This is what we really want. And this is what this process can actually do. It is a slow building up of confidence, and the IPC has to prove itself in
Through
practice
building.
with very small gestures that then
All
they
right,
build up over time.
let's go to the
I
Palestinian.
want to say, I want to recommend what Giacomo Valentini, I said it right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you,
Giacomo.
sir. Thank you, sir. What's happened in Europe happened after nearly 2 generations after the Second World War. And it's maybe will happen here after 2 or 3 generations. It will be possible. But what you said, you need a slow building. For Israeli that live in Tel Aviv, or for teachers that live in Tel Aviv in a class, no Palestinian policeman could enter to the school, even if he have a federal uniform, or even you have a federal tag or stuff like this. It's matter of culture. It's matter of understanding. It's
Then
matter
it could
of,
be an Israeli federal police
yeah,
officer.
maybe Israeli, yes, but not the federal system can happen. Maybe Israeli, that's right, because this is the reason I treat this initiative as a very nice idea, but only intellectual exercise. This one, for example, in the education part, it can make a job. Can make a job.
All right, let's have the Palestinian
But
parliament.
to make federal police, I don't see it happen in the nearly 50 years, next 50 years.
Let's have the Palestinian parliament members please vote on this legislation. Palestinian parliament members. Publish the vote. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members accepted this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Israeli parliament members. Please vote. Publish the vote. 88% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Mr. President of Palestine, are you going to veto this legislation?
I wish you would call on the Israeli Prime Minister first, but
Well, I did that for a purpose.
okay. I am going to veto this legislation, and I'm going to tell you why. We're not against a common police force, but there's several things here that are very troublesome to the state of Palestine. Mr. David kind of said one thing. He said that this could be something for East Jerusalem. And I disagree with Mr. David, respectfully, because I think I agree with him on many of the things that he said today. And one of the reasons I disagree is East Jerusalem doesn't need a common police force.
Okay, but what about Mr. David is not the legislation?
Yeah, but I'm gonna address these concerns. I'm gonna say East Jerusalem needs sovereignty. And some of the things that I'm worried about is that the history of Palestinian Authority police cooperation with Israel, and by the way, we do cooperate with Israeli Authority in fighting extremism, but only Palestinian extremism. We're not doing anything to fight Israeli extremism, including
Mr. President, please deal with the specific.
I'm going to deal, but it is specific.
I agree with you.
The police force. We have a town in Burkin right now that's been the last 3 days been under attack by Israeli extremist terrorists.
We're not interested in a
if you want
to, or then
if you want to know, Joseph, if you want to know, then I'll give you a no. And let me tell you just one more thing: is there's something in this bill that is very offensive, assisting in managing checkpoints. We do not want assistance in managing checkpoints. We want to remove checkpoints because checkpoints don't separate Palestinians from Israelis. They separate Palestinians from other Palestinians.
We're not taking that possibility away. You are a president of Palestine. You've been president of Palestine now for 20 years, and you haven't removed the checkpoints. So you
we did not remove the checkpoints because we're not the ones who place them and enforce them.
Correct. how
listen,
can
we
you?
have, along with the every country in the region, 50 Arab and Islamic states since 2002 through the Arab Initiative, the Arab Peace Initiative, and we've reiterated it 10 times, including just this week. Well, if I was Mahmoud Abbas, reiterated
Mr.
it 3 times this
we
week.
did not erect those checkpoints either.
Where did they
Okay?
come from? Where did they come from? They came from Israel.
They came by Israel.
So
Okay.
do you want me? The remedy is to remove them, not to manage them or to sugarcoat them.
All right,
This is what
but,
this does.
we are in the,
But we are
we
not
are,
able to remove them because we believe that we will, that the Israeli parliament members will not vote for it, and the Prime Minister of Israel will veto it.
This
We
bill,
have to thread the needle here.
this bill is a trap for the Palestinian people because it's going to bring it's going to bring a police force that's going to manage Palestinians. It will not manage the streets of Tel Aviv. It will not manage the streets of Haifa. It will come to Ramallah. It will come to all other cities in the West Bank, manage our movement, manage our control. If you bring me a bill that equally treats Palestinian population, protects their security, their land rights, their interests, I will support it. But this will be a managed occupation, which we're not interested in.
You are interested in it. You are participating in a managed occupation.
I would like to join the discussion, please. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
The more is less, Jacob. The moment you make it so detailed, it's going to get so much opposition, it will never pass. What we need to make it is minimalistic. And what is minimalistic? I think that the federal government, so federal police, should deal only with attempts to undermine the federal government. What does it mean? Terrorism on both sides. Period. Nothing else. Everything else should be done by the local police. There is a local police that goes to schools. Why do we have to go? The federal police go to schools. There's the local police. The federal deals only with the issues that undermine the federal notion, federal character of this arrangement, and which means they are to fight terrorism on both sides. Period. Nothing else.
All right. Okay.
I agree with Itzhak.
Let's go to the Prime Minister of Israel. Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to veto this legislation?
The Israeli government will veto this legislation. Israel is a sovereign state, and sovereignty means that the sovereign is the only one with the authority to use force. So that if we don't object, the state of Israel doesn't object to an IPC police force, but when it acts within the boundaries of sovereign Israel, it must be under the control of the Israeli police.
All right, but it says here specifically that in cooperation with the separate Israeli and Palestinian authorities. We are not seeking to nullify your sovereignty. We are seeking to basically be subcontractors for both the Palestinian and the Israeli governments, and to facilitate issues in a equal and humane way. What's wrong with that?
If you are going to be a subcontractor, then you are under our control. And so it must be quite clear that an IPC police force, when it acts within the state of Israel, is under the control of the Israeli police.
No, a subcontractor is not under the control. A subcontractor is working in cooperation.
No, I'm sorry. The subcontractor is under control of the people who are paying that contract.
We're not asking for your payment. We are asking for your cooperation. All right, I think we exhausted the issue. Let's go to the next one, and that is...
I think, let me just say, I think it's quite interesting that both the Israeli and the Palestinian, for not very different reasons, are vetoing this legislation.
I agree. And as the president of Palestine, Israel, work hard to undermine both the governments and to show the people of Israel and Palestine how their governments are harmful to the peaceful existence of their people.
But there's two
I
different.
am the only legitimately elected president in the only legitimate government in Israel Palestine.
Yeah, but the different reasons why we objected it. The Israeli prime minister, he wants to continue Israeli Jewish supremacy on the land, and I am saying, as the Palestinian Authority wants equality. So we objected because he sees it as going too far, taking away Jewish supremacy, when I say it's not going close enough to giving us equality.
Yeah, I don't disagree that you have two different reasons, and maybe your reasons is better than his reasons, but that doesn't matter. You vetoed it. All right, let's go to the next legislation, taxation. And Libby, could you read it? And Nasir, can you take it over for a while?
Sure.
Okay, this is about taxation alliance between the Israeli and Palestinian governments with the IPC. And the introduction. For the first time in history, the people of this region formed a mutual constitution and elected a secular democracy with enormous benefits to the people of Israel and Palestine, as well as their governments, by providing peace, security, economic opportunities, and substantial reduction in the governmental operating costs. Therefore, the IPC is proposing the following legislation. We hereby request the Israeli and Palestinian governments provides the following tax reductions to their taxpayers and subsidies to the IPC. All taxpayers obligated to the Israeli or Palestinian governments who opt in shall receive a 3% deduction in their taxes and an additional 3% of their taxes to be paid directly to the IPC. This legislation is submitted to the Israeli and Palestinian governments to exercise their veto power in the next 60 days. So Nasser?
Sorry. Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm just reading this. So we're going to have a vote. Let's have the Israeli parliament members vote first. I'm sorry, the Palestinian ones, not the Israeli ones.
Should there be any kind of discussion first about if this is doable? We
Okay.
didn't ask
Yeah,
David.
okay. I'm sorry. Mr. David, would you like to make a comment about this? Or does anybody have any questions?
Another thing, it's the same. It's looks nice, but nobody will give you no 3%
Yeah.
and no 3 shekel as a tax for his own tax what he gets. This is my point of view. If you will succeed, wonderful, but I don't see its work.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Palestinian voter, parliament members are still able to vote. I'm going to leave the poll open while you. Okay, so we have 83% in favor, 17 against. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. This also doesn't take into consideration the taxing system in both countries is different as well. Palestinian tax revenue is mainly taken from import duties. So we have the Israeli votes. Let's share the results: 60% in favor and 40% no.
All right, let's go to the president of Palestine. Are you going to veto this legislation? Mr.
Hello?
President, are you?
No, I am not going to veto it.
All right, let's go to the Prime Minister of
तीन
Israel.
मीटिंग चल रही है उसमें हूँ मैं
Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to veto this legislation?
मैसेज कर दो इसी पे मैसेज देख रहा हूँ लैपटॉप पे ओके
The government of Israel will veto this legislation. Israel will support the IPC for specific projects on a case-by-case basis, but an overall reduction of 6% in our operating budget is not acceptable to the Israeli government.
It's not an overall reduction in 6%. It's reduction of 6% only of those people that choose to support the IPC. But in reality, it increases the revenues for the state of Israel because by substantially a lot more than what it gives, because it will create peace. It will reduce the enormous Israeli security expenditures for military, because we will be able to create peace for the entire area of Israel and Palestine. And in addition to that, will increase the economy of both Israel and Palestine. So I regret the fact that you are being focusing on a tiny amount of money that you will have to give in order to support us, and ignore the huge amount of benefit, including peace to your people and increasing the economy of your people.
Well, as I said, the Israeli government will support IPC projects for specific projects on a case-by-case basis, and any projects and work that the IPC will do to make peace or to increase the economic basis and so on, the Israeli government will consider and probably support. But an overall the overall business that is proposed as this legislation goes, we will veto.
Okay, after participating in the simulation, do you support the common federal government? Please vote. Everyone voting yes, no. This is a post-simulation survey. Then we'll go to David to make a presentation of his movement. Okay, publish the vote. 96% voted in support of a federal government. I guess we were not able to convince that one person who voted no. These are our closing remarks. A common democratic confederation government can bring peace. Online election is feasible. I haven't been told how the Israeli or the Palestinian government are going to interfere in the election. There are many secured online events, including the American tax system, Social Security, banking, worldwide elections. Cities are being elected online. The country of Estonia conducts 40% of its election online. So to say it's not going to happen because the Israeli government is not going to want it to happen or is going to be against it, first of all, assumes that they will be against it, which is a realistic assumption. However, you have to explain what would the Israeli or the Palestinian government would be actually able to do in order to prevent it, or will they actually want to expose themselves to prevent it? And the bottom line is we need to have peace and for everyone. So, Sean, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do actually. You said when Israel vetoes all these things we are implementing and they veto it, and you said if they keep vetoing it, that just exposes them from what they are, right? However, you have all these trolls on the internet who was protecting Israel's image. So what Israel's doing right now in Gaza is a crime, but there are people out there trying to sugarcoat Israel, making it try to protect its image, so Israel doesn't take the blame on what it's doing. So you want to expose Israel, go ahead, but you're also having these people who wants to protect the image of Israel, even regardless if it does something good or bad.
Yeah, but the people that will be electing for this government are Israelis themselves. They're the one who are being told there are no options now. We have to continue with the war. We have to continue with our animosity to the Palestinians, and so this would create a completely different political scenario, and the people of Israel and Palestine will have an opening to question their own government. But look, I am not saying like David, David's saying it's not going to happen, even if you spend more than $100 million. I am saying, let's give it a try. I think it could happen. All right, let's go to, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's go to David, and we'll give him an opportunity to tell us about his vision for two-state, and then we'll go to question and answers. David?
Yeah, first of all, I'm again apologize about the noise, but all our life is with the difficulties. So hey, everyone, and thank you, especially Joseph, for inviting me. I'm by profession an organizational consultant, and here to discuss about 2027, a movement we founded with Dr. Asher Albo and friends. We see ourselves as a catalyst for organizations seeking to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. My volunteer past include challenging major airlines and saving customers billions, not hundreds of millions, but billions. About 3 years ago, I shifted my volunteer focus to finding a path for Israel to disengage from the state of Palestine. Our movement 2027 now has thousands which support its vision. In both my past and present endeavors, the challenge is to explaining the obvious. Just as the flight ticket is the passenger property, the state of Palestine is a state existing alongside us. This is a fundamental truth we must internalize. Our main goal is to help the Israelis public overcome its fear of using the terms state of Palestine. If more Israelis understand that it's a de facto state existing alongside us, it will be a significant step toward resolving the conflict. We choose 2027 because, based on my experience, it takes about 5 years to break down fundamental misconceptions. We have another 2 or 3 years left, and reality seems to be moving in the right direction. I want to speak about 9 historical points, headlines, this reality. 1949, Rhodes Agreement established Israel's legal border. 1967, Israel assumed responsibility for territories and residents captured from Jordan and Gaza Strip. 1978, agreement between Israel and Egypt stipulated Palestinian autonomy. 1988, Jordan relinquished sovereignty over 67 territories. 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza Strip, the western part of state of Palestine. 2012, UN admitted the state of Palestine as observer state. 2025, ICC, International Criminal Court, rules the state of Palestine is a state with a border defined by the Green Line. 2024, ICJ, International Court of Justice, rule Israeli occupation of state of Palestine is permanent and because of this illegal. Consequently, the UN demanded Israel withdraw within 12 months. Here we see, and after granted the state of Palestine member state rights despite its observer status. 2025, more countries are recognized the state of Palestine, and the French-Saudi conference on US soil aimed to initiate a political process between Israel and the state of Palestine. So what is we see, our friends, that even after 50 years, the world still hasn't normalized Israel control and interference in state of Palestine. So why are Israelis afraid from the term state of Palestine? It reminds us reality that many of us wish to ignore. A state with millions of citizens are under military rules with illegal Israeli settlements on its territory. The term territory was coined to ignore the resident and the areas captured from Jordan and Gaza Strip. Another amazing fact is that except for East Jerusalem, Israeli law doesn't define the 67 captured area as part of Israel, but as a territory of a Palestinian consul. The state of Palestine is reality most Israeli ignore. It was admitted as a state by the UN, as embassy in over 100 countries. It's member of most international organizations, and its citizens hold their own passport. Our approach to facilitate the Israeli exists from the state of Palestine is to increase the 5% of Jewish Israeli demanded to end the occupation to 25%. Combined with almost complete support of Muslim and Christian Israeli citizens and growing international pressure, those vectors will achieve our goal. Two main ways to achieve our goal. Changing terminology and cognitive shift. Changing terminology. The 5% must insist on using only the term state of Palestine, not territory, not Judea and Samaria, West Bank, or authority, only state of Palestine. Cognitive shift. Our effort, demonstration, article, post must emphasize the solution, exiting the state of Palestine, rather than just the injustice of the occupation. We seek solution, not just description of the problem. When the 5% are consistent with the state of Palestine and focus on solution, it will spread the 25 of the Jewish center left who believe the conflict must resolve a resolution. The turning point will be when this target audience understand we are talking about a state, not just a territory, making the demand to separate the two states and the exit the state of Palestine legitimate. So what is our action plan? We write articles and work with journalists, influencers to increase the use of the term State of Palestine. It will, this will lead more Israeli to understand a state exists alongside us. We support this with demonstrations like marking the green line on the road, really, with the paint, and digital media activity. All the open educational and political meeting to embed the term State of Palestine in the Israeli public consciousness, emphasizing that Israeli settlement in the State of Palestine are a war crime, and that an agreement is needed for Israel to exit the State of Palestine. We demand use the correct terms. Don't say territories, Judah and Samaria. Don't say the West Bank or autonomy. Say only State of Palestine. Don't say settlers. Say Israeli that live in the State of Palestine. Don't say settlement. Say Israeli community in the State of Palestine. Don't say Palestinian. Say citizen of the State of Palestine. Thank you, sir.
All
Thank
right,
you.
David, thank
So,
you.
I want to
Did
take, are we going to do questions, Joseph?
Yes,
Okay. So, thank you, David. And I'm going to call on questions. You can raise your hand. But David, I just have a question first. Then we'll go to Mr. Nasser because he raised his hand, and then we'll go to Shlomo Or. My question, Mr. David, is that I see what you're saying as far as the referring it to as the State of Palestine, because I think that in the psyche of many Israelis, they don't see it as a state. But the problem with the time period is that we as Palestinians feel that every time there's a time period given, we don't have a problem waiting for 5 years. We don't have, that's what Oslo was about. But the time periods that we put things to the side or we postpone them is also the time where you have settlers building like crazy, seizing more land. When Oslo was first signed, for example, in 1993, there was about 240,000 settlers in the West Bank. Today, there's about 750,000.
No,
and I
no.
think, no, that's not true. Is my
No,
number?
they have only less than 500,000, and
Yeah,
most
but
of them on the border.
Okay. But you're saying 500,000, but people like me, I'm from Bet Hanina, and next to Bet Hanina is Pisgat Ze'ev. Pisgat Ze'ev is a settlement. I know you don't consider it a settlement, but I consider it a settlement in occupied territory.
Me too.
But if you include Ma'ale Adumim and Pisgat Ze'ev and these areas in East Jerusalem, these two are settlers. They came to settle in 1967 territory. So the number is about 750,000 if you include these people. But my point is that there was a mayor of Haifa, Avram Mitzna, and he kind of ran on the same platform. I believe it was in the 1990s, maybe early 2002. And his concept was, if we cannot get a settlement, we will draw a line, and everything east, he used to say, bye-bye Palestine, and everything west, those settlement blocks will be incorporated into Israel. But today we cannot move in this direction because we have areas like in the Jordan Valley, in Muzaffar Yatta, that today, as we speak, are being ethnically cleansed and people being pushed from the east part of the West Bank into crowded areas of Area A and B. So your organization, in order for it to resonate with us, the Palestinians, we have to have guarantees that the pie, the pizza that we're fighting over or negotiating over is not going to be done by the time we get to a solution.
Let me answer, please.
Sure.
From what I know, most of the settlers are on the border like Pisgat Ze'ev, you're right? And I know from Olmert and Barak that the State of Palestine government agree to make a change of lands about 4%. And if Israel will agree to make this change, only between 80 to 100,000 Israeli have to go back home. And if you will go to Trump plan about let's say 5 years ago, he also talking about changing lands. So I think this is a solution, and it's a possible. And even Ehud Olmert talking about now about this, and I talk about 5 years from 2022. Now we're waiting to French Saudi conference, and another countries will recognize state of Palestine. And if they will make a right restriction against Israel, the picture will change.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go to Shlomo.
We had a question. There was a hand raised before. I don't know if Mr. Nasser had his hand raised. If he wanted to go, then we can go to Shlomo and Sean, if you don't
Yes,
mind.
and I apologize because technically I did not raise the yellow hand,
Yeah.
but I don't know how. So am I allowed or not
Sure,
yet?
go ahead, please. Yeah, no, because I saw you raise your hand. I did see it, so go ahead.
Yeah, first I want to congratulate the speaker, Mr. David, for the central point he tried to make. I think it's very, very important point, because there is a difference between saying that there is a state of Palestine and we are trying to find a solution between the two states, coexistence and working together and maybe confederation, blah, 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 but on the basis of the existence of the states. Part of the problem, unfortunately, is not only the Israeli position. Part of the problem is the stupid Palestinian position, because Palestinian officials until now say that we want to establish our independent state. This is wrong, because the state does exist by virtue of the historic right for the Palestinian people, by virtue of the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people, by virtue of, the declaration by the PNC on 1988 and 1982 and things like that. Now, of course, the state is occupied and the state is under the
Military rules.
settler colonialism that is taking place. That's true. But part of the problem also is that the Israeli side negate this idea or reject this idea precisely to maintain its dominance on the Palestinian side, and precisely to maintain its possibility of choosing what to do. That is the problem, because when there is no state, it will be up to the Israelis to decide whether to give the Palestinian side a state or not to give them a state. Whether to consider the Palestinian existence as an internal Israeli problem or a genuine conflict between two sides, between two states. This is, again, extremely important point, and it should be stressed repeatedly and repeatedly. I personally tried to push in that direction and to convince some Palestinians not to say we want to establish a Palestinian state. We are struggling for our right to self-determination and national independence in our existing state, Palestine, on 1967 borders, and we are ready to negotiate with the Israeli side the terms of a solution. And by the way, since you referred to Mr. Olmert, I am happy to say that our joint proposal is suggesting 4.4% exchange of territory, which was suggested by Mr. Olmert earlier. So we are on the right track. Now, of course, most of the world, most of the countries of the world
I didn't understand the questions, but
the two-state solution.
no problem.
It's not a question. It's
I know.
comment.
I agree with what.
Now, okay, now let me stop here. I just have two secondary comments to make. First, in 2005, the Israeli side did not withdraw from Gaza. It redeployed from Gaza and maintained its dominance, its control of Gaza. And ICRC, I remember exactly our discussion with the ICRC on this, accepted the idea that Gaza remained occupied territory, part of the occupied territory of the state of Palestine, to be consistent with what you were saying. Secondly, in 2012, the United Nations not exactly gave the right for
Why
the
not?
observer state of Palestine, because the language of the resolution speaks of non-observer, non-member observer state, which creates a new category.
At the moment, State of
Under-
Palestine have a member right in the UN.
No.
In 24, they decided.
No. It was much more complicated than that, and it moved gradually, step by step, over several steps, up to the resolution related to the flag that was raised with the non-member states, after the non-member states. But to say non-member state or observer state is one thing, and to say non-member observer state is a completely different thing that create different category of states.
But they are
The fact
part.
that the state of Palestine exists, my last point, the fact that the state of Palestine exists relates to the resolution 181 of 1947. That early, it does not relate to 2012 GA resolution. And I'm sorry to speak that long. So thank you very much. And again, congratulations for raising very pertinent and important issue.
Thank you, Mr. Nasser. Mr. David, did you want to reply to his comments, or do you want to move to the next question?
No, I agree with most of the things that Nasser said. I think, let's say, State of Palestine, they are not member only in the UN. The member all in only most international organization that only only state part of, and State of Palestine get custom.
OIC and Arab League
State of
and
Palestine, just a minute. State of Palestine get custom for goods that import to its area. So this is only state get custom.
Yeah, you are right.
So this is another indication of State of Palestine is an international state.
Okay. Let's go, Shlomo, you have your hand raised, and then we'll go to Sean and then Alan.
Yeah, very quickly, I welcome any two-state solution that is possible, including putting the boundary and say whatever to the east now of the 1967 borders is Palestine, and Gaza is Palestine, of course. But
State of Palestine.
State of Palestine. But you know, if you listen to Avi Shlaim, Professor Avi Shlaim, he said, and I agree with him, unfortunately, is that not only the two-state solution is no longer a solution, it's never been a solution. No Israeli government stuck to it, and no US government done anything about it. So it's like once he called it like the
you remember, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You remember what Moshe Dayan said about Shara Mashech?
Yes.
You remember what Arik Sharon said about Netzarim?
Yes.
Maybe
yes,
you understand me.
Yes. So I'm by all means, I'm all for it, and especially I'm for leaving all the settlers or whatever the citizen, the Jewish citizens of Palestine staying there. I prefer that they stay there, by the way. So, but the alternative is one state. And the more I think about it, and Avi Shlaim and Ilan Pape and everyone who has been thinking about, and actually, if you ask Josef, Avisa, I think one state may be a solution in which everyone, you know, equality and a state of all its citizens and peace and justice. And that's perhaps the only solution right now. I don't see, even here when we talk about the Israel and I don't see Israel anymore. I don't know what Israel is. I don't know who the Israelis are, what they are doing in Gaza. I mean, you're talking about very strange situation. They are going to exterminate 2 million people now. I mean, what is going on? And those are the Israelis that have to deal with, that we have to deal with the Confederation. Any arrangement is questionable now. Israel itself is in big question. What is Israel? What is Zionism? What is this?
I want a little answer if it's possible.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Of course. Go ahead, Mr. David, and then we'll move on to the other questions.
Maybe can be possible to be one state in another 50 or 100 years. At the moment, after all this bloodshed, it will be easy to go to the moon by foot, then it will be one step. Because, you know, the problem is in the Israeli consciousness. The Israeli, you can't transfer from this situation to one state. You know, Israel, it's a bit noisier, sorry. Israel wouldn't allow that the Palestinian will be citizen of Israel. It's impossible. Truly, it's impossible. It can be possible like in Europe, after we have peace 50, 75 years, maybe, but not at the moment after so hard war. I can't see it happen. I'm sorry.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you.
I agree
I think
too.
it will be the
Let's,
other way around. It will be the Israelis will become the citizens of Palestine. And that's how it will happen. It will end because that's the way it is going now.
Let's go to Sean and then Alan, and then I'm gonna ask Mr. David to follow up on that subject. I have some thoughts on that. Go ahead, Alan. Did you put your hand down, Sean? Did you have a...
No. You know, lately I've been seeing on the social media about all these Zionists protecting Israel's image, and even the U.S. politician who are bribed by AIPAC saying it also.
I'm not hearing.
Yeah, David, your mic is real low. So can you speak up and?
I don't hear you, Alan.
No, it's Sean. It's Sean. It's Sean who's speaking. Sean, your question, it's your audio is really low. Can you move up to the mic a little bit?
Okay. Hold on. Can you hear me better or what?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Sean. It's really low.
Really low?
Yeah. Let's go to Alan, maybe to tweak it. Go ahead, Alan, and then we'll go back to Sean.
Okay, well, I'm very attuned with this basic idea that I've been an organizer one way or another since 1954. And what organizing is done is on the ground. And I encourage that this 300 districts be laid out on the ground of Israel and Palestine, and people begin to see on the ground what district they are in, and that all the people who have connection in Israel and Palestine take this idea to the ground and see how people distributed through this land area can begin to see themselves as part of a confederation that eventually can grow through an election much more broadly. But this needs to start on the ground, and that is through human connection. The $100 million is really pretty much beside the point, unless there's a working through personal networks on the ground that this is an idea that helps connect people. I think it very much can be. I'm a supporter, but I think this is an on-the-ground business, not requiring a big budget. But if there is a big budget, what is the budget? Who is getting paid here? Or is this simply consultants for the computer-run election? But when money is involved, there's a lot more problems than just saying this is a matter of human connection, saying we need to have some confederation because we're all brothers and sisters on the same land. And Israel and Palestine also has to consider the right of return as an essential element in any peace that is made. So there are many, many, many more people coming to the Holy Land that need to be integrated into a developing economy. That has to be part of the multi-year picture. Anyhow, thank you very much for your do it on the ground. What are the 300 districts? Where are my friends located? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Alan. Go ahead, Mr. David. Do you want to reply? Or?
I really don't understand the questions. If someone can explain it.
I think it was just a general comment. I don't know if there was a question. Did you want to
elaborate? It was a general comment. Yeah. Yes, I recognize the state of Palestine.
Sure.
That was very good to put into the mind.
Yeah, so
this confederation is about how people who bridge states can work together. And that recognizes the state of the Palestine as existing, and how what it is yet to be determined, like the state of Israel.
Okay.
Good work, Joseph. Bye-bye. Signing off.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah. So, Sean, do you want to try again, or can I go?
Can you hear me better?
Honestly,
No?
not.
No?
Yeah, go ahead.
We hear you fine. We
Okay.
can hear you. It's low, but we can hear you fine. I heard you before.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, all I'm saying is there's
I'm not hearing you.
no?
Joseph, I know you say you hear him and I can hear him, but I literally have to struggle. And I can't imagine David, because he's in a situation where he hears other background noise.
You know what? I'll have to pass.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sean, because it's just really hard to hear you.
I have a question for
Sure.
both David and for Nasser, because they seem to be representing, for lack of a better word, the two sides, Israel and Palestine. Do you agree that the government of Israel and Palestine are not democratically, legitimately elected? And if so, why would you even propose for those governments to be implementing or suggesting a solution when they are not legitimate entities in terms of being government? I understand that they have their power, they have their support, but they have no legitimacy in terms of democratically being elected.
I'm not
So if
agreeing with you
so-
at all.
I'm sorry?
I'm not agree. Sorry, I'm not agree at all on this statement.
Well, Israel controls several million Palestinians who have to obey
So what?
Israeli law.
What's about Egypt? What's about Jordan? What's about Afghanistan?
Okay, this is
You can
not
you can
this.
you can come you can make a website in United States and say let's change the regime in Afghanistan.
All
Let
right,
them
so
Listen,
look, I'm not I'm not, but to say I'm just laying out facts. You have people, Palestinian people, living under Israeli law, under occupation, that are not allowed to participate
I know.
in the democratic process. And you have a Palestinian government that is not elected by the people of Palestine or Israel. And yet, these two entities, not legitimately democratically elected, wanting to create a system, wanting to create a reality for people who have never given them legitimacy.
Could I try
From my
give it
point
a
of
hand?
view,
Let's-
Nasser, you want?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Nasser. Go ahead, Mr. Nasser.
I would say that the situation on both sides is very bad, but it's different. The reality is that there are different two situations. On the Israeli side, this government was democratically elected. However, with time, with very bad practices, it made itself illegitimate in the eyes of many Israelis. It's not the business of the Palestinians, it's the business of the Israelis. And as such, I think it's becoming now a problem internationally. In Europe and probably in America, there is gradual change, and in Israel itself. So we will see what's going to happen. But it is de facto illegitimate government because of political reasoning. Now, on the Palestinian side, it's much worse because there was election once in 2005, and since then, forget about everything. And Mr. Abbas does not intend to have any other elections at any level. So as such, they lack any kind of legitimacy, including being democratically elected for sure. Now, furthermore, if you want to have any progress, both governments, both leadership have to go. In addition to the fact that we need to have a new, different situation in Gaza if we are to have any progress. Now, having said that, I never presented anything for the consideration of the Palestinian government or the Palestinian leadership to solve any problem. I mean, we are trying to propose things for the public and for the international community, but never to the Palestinian government as such. So I hope this could help you a little bit.
Well,
Mr.
how is the
Thank you.
Israeli
Let me
government?
answer,
You said the Israeli
listen,
government is legitimate.
just a minute, Joseph. I have to
It
leave in
was
2
legitimately
minutes.
elected,
So
but
let
then
me
after
let Mr.
answer
David
very,
go ahead, Mr. David.
let me answer you very important questions. Israel is not full democracy. Israel have many problems on its system, but this is what we have. To change it, you can't change it like this. You can make a revolution and come out of the blue, come from the moon and say, listen, I want to make a federal government here because you are not legitimate and your democracy are not exactly 100% democracy because there is apartheid, which I agree there is, and there is a many problems.
Yeah.
If you want to change this, you need revolution, you need soldiers, you need arms, you need people that are willing to die. You can't do it by internet with a laptop and mouse and Wi-Fi.
Why not?
Because it doesn't work.
How many times
What proof do you have that
it's not worked?
let's say, with your files, let's say I have 300 representatives and I have 2 million, they put you in jail because you're going to undermine the regime. It can't work.
Yeah.
Well, how many times that I strongly disagree with you.
No,
you just making a
all the change in
let me finish.
like the French Revolution, like all revolution, even in United States, when they become a federal, they came federal after a war, after people die, after people willing to die to change the thing. It doesn't work with mouse and laptop. Forget about it. You have to come to Israel. You have to come to Israel. Bring 10 or 20 or 50,000 people that is your soldier that are willing to die with maybe 10, 100 or 600 billion dollar and change with
you know when you remind me when the penicillin was discovered by Alexander Fleming. Before that, people used to cut patients' fingers and arms whenever they had infection. And Alexander Fleming said, oh, you don't need to cut people's fingers and arms and legs, including children, including without anesthesia.
Joseph, I wish you luck.
Let me finish.
I'm sorry, I have to go.
I'm sorry.
I think he has to run. I really wanted to ask a question, Mr. David, because
I have to leave.
I don't appreciate being cut down.
I know, but he says he has to leave. He said he had to go in 2 minutes.
Okay, he can leave. I'm not asking him I'm not asking him to remain. I'm asking him not to interfere with what I am saying.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So he's the guest here, but I will.
All right. So when Alexander Fleming discovered the penicillin, he said, you don't need to cut people's fingers and arms to fight penicillin. And you know what they said? Exactly what you're saying now. That's hoax. That's not going to ever happen. You can't just put a little bit of medicine on someone's infection and have it cleared. That's irresponsible. That's black magic. That's what they said. And it took years and years and years until they found out that the solution is very simple.
I
Very
agree
simple.
with you that
Okay,
it will take
so-
years. I agree, and I wish you luck, and thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
the opportunity you gave it to me.
Thank you, Mr. David.
I'm
Thank you
sorry
for
I
your
have to leave.
participation.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Wish all luck. Thank you.
Yeah. I had a question I thought was more relevant to what he was speaking today. But go ahead, Libby, did you want to chime in?
Or did you call me?
Yeah, go ahead, Libby.
Oh, just to say, I'm sorry that David left because he said the solution is all out war and willing to give your life and death to make things happen. And I would just raise the question, how's that working for us so far? And when I think
Exactly.
about the centuries of war and murder and mayhem and destruction of lives, and I think about the Gazans now, even if Israel says they're winners and they take over or something, when you think about the children and the families that have been permanently maimed, and so whatever life they have left, the ones with missing limbs and everything, if you think they're going to forgive and forget, I don't think so. And that is the problem of resolving violence with violence. That's the problem resolving conflict with violence because it leaves people angry and rebuilding for the future. So I think in the beginning, I heard him say, well, let's start with some things that work, like education, focusing on religion, focusing on the humanitarian issues that people are much more apt to go for. And as the relationships build and new thinking outside the box and hearing each other's stories and learning different languages together, those are the things that I think ultimately in the long run are going to be the solutions to our problems. But right now we've been trying murder and bombs and weapons and killing, and has it gotten better? Absolutely not. We know, everybody on this call knows that is not the way to building a future that meets the needs for everybody. So I'm sorry he left because I think he cares a lot. But if his solution is killing and standing up and,
I don't necessarily think that was he was saying, but he was saying that in order to stand for change, you have to be willing to do just more than just advocacy and speaking. That it's not about we want to go out and kill, but it's that in order for a change to come about, we have to do more than just talk about peace. We actually need enforcement. And unfortunately, Libby, history disagrees with you. That there's never been an end to no colonial movement ended because the colonizer decided to say, hey, I think I'm morally wrong and I'm going to pull out. This is the most unfortunate thing in the history of humanity. And even if we look at why did Oslo happen? It didn't happen because Israel decided that we have a moral problem occupying these people. It came because of the Intifada and the Palestinians standing up for their rights and going at them with rocks.
Colonialism in America ended when democracy spread to everyone.
So the Revolutionary War the United States, it just came out of nowhere. That's not true.
What do you mean that's not true?
So the American George Washington, all this stuff that we were told when we went to school was just all made up. I don't get you.
I am saying
I
that
don't think
the
that's the
only
point.
way to end colonialism
You're muted, Joseph.
You're
You
muted,
got
Joseph.
muted.
I am saying that the only way to end colonialism is to have democracy for everyone, equality for everyone. That's, I mean, if you think that you're going to kick the Israelis out.
But again, you're taking it to that point that this is what he's advocating. He's not necessarily
I am
saying
not saying
do
that's
arms.
what he's advocating.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is when you say stand up, when you say stand up, you're also standing up, meaning like you're going to get arrested. You're going to participate. You're going to do things economic, diplomatic, and things like that. I don't think we should take his word as value as we are going to come with an invading force and shoot. I don't think that's where they stand. I think that
I agree.
These things are needed. We can sit here and learn each other's languages, and we can talk about cooking and sewing and stuff like that. But there are certain measures. Today, for example, one of them, I think it was the finance minister of Turkey, he said that for everything that we buy from Israel, we sell them 6 things. So this means that he's avoiding economic measures that may make his country suffer because he doesn't want to support the Palestinians. We have deals right now going on between Arab countries and stuff that are helping the Israeli economy. So this doesn't have to be a battlefield.
What's wrong with the federal government we are proposing?
No, there's nothing wrong with it, but we have to understand that there is you see, you have the federal government that you're proposing is a solution to what the house is going to look like after we live in it. But we can't talk about the house, how it's going to be.
I don't understand what you're saying.
I'll tell you what the analogy is, because the analogy is you're telling me about this big, huge house that we're all going to live into. But the problem is my side of the house is burning. And I want to put out the fire because that's my priority right now. The Palestinian house right now is burning. And we can't talk about the mansion that we're going to live in if we can't put out our fire.
Is the federal government preventing you from putting out the fire?
No, it's not, but it's also not helping me put out the fire.
So why are you raising that issue?
Because it does not solve the fire.
And my argument is that the federal government is the only way to put out the fire. You have to deal with reality. The reality is that you have fire, and the fire was created under the existing governments. So you say, I don't understand your argument at all. If your argument is truly to resolve the fire, what is the best way to do that?
But what I'm saying doesn't go against the Federation or Confederation plan. But what I'm trying to say is that we have an immediate issue right now. And this is what is the major obstacle that is more important than anything.
We have been offering this idea way before October 7, years before. If we had a federal government, the October 7 in all likelihood would not have even occurred. I don't understand this mentality or this idea, it's not going to happen because I said it's not going to happen. What is David's experience in creating a federal government other than no experience whatsoever? To say it's not going to happen without explanation, without personal experience, it's basically to say, well, let's stay where we were 100 years ago, and that's not advanced. And if you think you can do it on the computer, yes, I do think that we can have the election. Not everything has to be.
I don't think he meant
and having like.
I don't think he meant the actual process of elections. I think he meant the people who are in this battle just on sharing social media. I think that's what he meant by computer. He didn't mean like having an election online.
Look, Alexander Fleming came up with the penicillin. He was crucified for that idea because people were used to cutting arms and legs without anesthesia as a way to fight infection. And then he came and said, no, all you have to do is put this lotion on people's infection and it will be cured. And the way David spoke, it reminded me of that notion that we need to cut legs and arms, including for children. And you know, he has no intellectual ability to refute the idea that he said it's not going to happen because I say it's not going to happen.
Kishwar, would you like to, Kishwar has her hands raised.
Hello. Yes, I just wanted to ask that since this idea has been there long way before 7th October, what has been practically achieved till now, and what are the immediate milestones we have that we can say, yes, something on the ground is going on and it's possible? It may be very short term, but just I want to know. Thank you so much.
Well, look, I can tell you that we have huge achievements because we don't have huge achievements. We're trying to have these simulations and to bring all points of views. And people are literally refusing to talk about it on both Palestinians and Israelis. And for that matter, it's our failure not to achieve what our vision. On the other hand, it's a far greater failure of the Israeli and the Israeli people for not considering this option, exposing the people of Israel and Palestine to so much violence without considering another option. It's far greater failure than our failure. We don't have the means. We don't have the government behind us. We have forces against us, and we acknowledge our failure. But those governments have far greater failure for not considering this as an idea. And the people of Israel and Palestine, I just wrote an article about the lack of imagination for peace. It's amazing. They don't have a discussion about peace. Benjamin Netanyahu had a press conference on Wednesday. There was not a single question about his vision for peace. The Israeli press did not ask him a single question about his vision for peace. The idea of peace is being gone from the discussion in Israel-Palestine. And then to criticize us for bringing a vision for peace and for being unsuccessful in bringing that vision for peace is preposterous. At least we fight day in and day out to bring that discussion into the table. I think that we are the only organization that actually talks about specific ways for peace.
I'm gonna call on Jeff Warner, but Joseph, I think to say that nobody's talking about peace, your assessment on Netanyahu is 100%. He's not talking about peace. In fact, he's talking about war. But if you listen to President Mahmoud Abbas's 3 speeches that he gave last week, he spoke of compromise. The Arab world is talking security, regional cooperation. I mean, I'm not saying we're against federation, but to say that nobody's offering a solution it's just not true. There's proposals, there's countries. We have rich countries that are willing even to financially contribute to security and
compromise for a 2-state. He's not proposing a formula for peace.
Okay, Jeff, did you want to go? And then,
yeah, can I please speak? Yeah, can we just like have like some kind of milestone that some politician give a statement publicly in favor of this confederation solution?
Politicians are the problem. We're not seeking their approval. They are the problem. All of them, all of these politicians. You see the reality. Who is responsible for that? So why would we go and seek their endorsement? It doesn't make sense that we will do that because we are saying they are the failure, and it doesn't make sense for them to endorse us because there would be an acknowledgement of their failure.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Thank you. You know, a lot of you people have come close to the issue, but I want to generalize it a little bit. To make peace, and of course I'm here because I believe we must fight to make peace, but to make peace you must have the various sides want to make peace. In Northern Ireland, both sides wanted to make peace, and when Clinton and Mitchell came in, they added some grease to help them make peace, but both sides wanted to. Same thing in South Africa. In South Africa, both sides wanted to make peace. In fact, the apartheid government, the African government from the mid-70s, understood that apartheid had to change for the good of the country. And the problem we all acknowledge is that the Palestinians want to make peace, but the Israelis think they're winning and they don't want to make peace. And until that changes, and that's why our guest would say it can never happen, because it can never happen because he understands the Israeli government as it stands now and as it looks for the next few years, doesn't want to make peace. It thinks it's winning.
Jeff, I agree with your assessment. However, the Israeli society is not a monolithic society. They have been trained not to think about other options for peace, but they are not a monolithic society.
I agree, Joe, they're not monolithic, but most of them, as you just said, have been trained.
Yes.
And as long as that has to change.
Right.
The government and the people of Israel right now think that they are winning and do not want to make peace.
Yeah. I agree with you. However,
and I agree that the people of Israel don't want to make peace because they've been propagandized. They've been trained.
So
and that's where the change has to happen.
Right.
So let me ask you.
And let me respond. If we provide an option, a realistic option, if they see an actual election, and if they see Palestinians and Israelis running for parliament, and if we have enough power to tell the people of Israel and Palestine the benefit, then they could, some of them, not all of them. That's why we said 2 million Israelis will vote, not even though there are at least 7 or 8 million Israelis. Then we can crack that propaganda by having actual election and by having the Israelis realize that their best friends are not necessarily other Israelis, but other Palestinians.
Well, I agree with you, and that's why I take part in these simulations and I support the IPC.
Thank you.
See, okay, I've been participating in this simulation for I don't know 2-3 years. Pretty loyal, and the reason I get a little frustrated is that I feel that we hit the same roadblock every time we bring distinguished guests like David and several others, because there's a central theme that these people hit is that they feel, I don't think that we disagree on where we need to go. I think the problem is how we're going to get there. And the central theme that these people bring up is, how do we get Palestinian and Israeli society to a confederation? And when Kishwar asked the question about, is there any current politicians who've proposed anything to be called a confederation? And I want to talk about, for example, the Holy Land Confederation. We had Yossi Belin and Hiba Hosseini. They did propose this, and they seem to confer with the theme that a path to a confederation model requires that you have two, or how many ever are going to participate, have some sort of base for sovereignty, for rules. And this is something, Joseph, that I think that this organization has to consider, because it's a theme that we hear too much and we can't ignore it. You're saying that who cares what the
more specific?
Well, for example, your response was the Palestinian Authority is an illegitimate government. The Israeli government is illegitimate. But these governments have institutions that run the day-to-day lives of these people. To say that the Palestinian Authority is illegitimate, I mean, sure, they haven't had an election or an elected president, but you have institutions that are running the healthcare system, the education system, the ministries and the municipalities. These are actually living institutions. And it's the same thing in Israel.
I agree.
But
That's why we are not calling to dismantle them. We realize their existence. We do not call for the dismantlement, but we say, we call it as it is. You're not denying what we are saying. You're just saying, well, you need to be more respectful to...
Not necessarily respectful, but you want to be able to have, you need to have basically the groundwork set up. I just think that it's like we want to run a race, but none of us have trained to run. We're walkers or something. And I think that this is a necessary step. And I know you're saying, well, it's 20 years you haven't done anything, or 30 years we haven't done anything, but
I suggest that I think we should have a milestone that within next 6 months we should have like 2 public statements from prominent politicians in favor of this confederation, or maybe at a local or lesser level, but there should be something that we can achieve on grounds. I agree with Nasser.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something. I've been doing this. I've been doing it for 24 years, and I can tell you there is tremendous fear of the Israeli government by American politicians. Okay, they would not support anything unless Israel supports it. Okay. There is tremendous fear. I met with politicians. I met with Mitchell. I met with others. They will not say anything unless it's been cleared by the Israeli government. If you want to go and get and learn what I have learned, go ahead and do that. Try to get American or Israeli politicians to support this. They're not. They're not going to support. I'm not going to waste an ounce of my energy to contact them. I've been doing it. I was naive when when we started this. I thought, oh, we will send this idea to the Israeli consulate and they'll say, oh, okay, let's make peace. This is a good idea. They don't want this.
It can be from other politicians from the global community, maybe Ireland.
Like who? Like who?
Like Ireland, Netherlands, Spain, who are already sympathetic about the catastrophe going on in the Israel and Palestine.
Yeah. We tried Ireland. We tried Greece. We tried.
The problem.
In fact, we had a Greek politician who was I forgot his name, who was the Minister of Finance in Greece. He's very active, and he agreed to participate in our simulation. Sorry?
Yanis Varoufakis.
Yes, exactly. And once I met with him, his reaction was, what are you talking about? We have a war in Gaza, and this is what I'm not participating. And he said, well, no, he didn't say that right away. He said, And I said, what? Yes, there is a war with Gaza. What is the best way to resolve this war?
Mhm.
And he said, well, let's put pressure on Israel. And I said, that doesn't take away putting pressure on Israel. And then he said, well, I have to think about it. I'll come to the simulation and try to say some good things. And then a day later, I got an email from his assistant that says he's not showing up. I had the exact same thing with British and with Irish politicians. Once they see this as in my opinion, as a possibility for peace, for neutrality, for peace, they withdraw. They are either for Israel or against Israel, but they are not really interested in peace.
So I'm gonna, before Shlomo, because I have to step off, Mr. Nasser, I'm gonna send you a private message from my email because I don't know if you can read it, but
Well, let's invite
Yeah.
Nasser.
yeah, that's why I want to get his contact. If you look at the chat, because I actually have to run through another meeting. Mr. Nasser, if you don't mind, it'd be nice to.
with pleasure. Send
Yeah, yeah.
me a
And
message.
and by the way, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a fan of yours.
Pleasure is mine. And
And
maybe we need to wrap it up because it has been now 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
All
you
right,
guys are
let's
free,
wrap
but
it
I
up.
have to run. I'm sorry, everybody. But thank you everybody for your participation. And I need to transfer the host to Joseph. Let me see. So it's all
Nasser, would
yours.
you be willing to come in as a guest in our simulation?
Well, I'm willing to help and to provide you with a hand, definitely. But I need to understand a few things a little bit more. Maybe we can have some discussion.
But before, did you get my message?
I can have a meeting with you in person.
Mr. Nasser?
Yeah, I don't know whether I'm now in France, in the south. I'm spending more and more time running away from Mr. Abbas and his cronies, in spite of Nasir's smooth dealing with them. But I think there
I know
are a
I'm
bunch
not
of
at all, not at all, not at all. That's don't misinterpret
Okay.
my support. It's just
Nasser, I'll invite you to have a personal meeting with me on Zoom.
I actually agree with you more than anyone of the regime and
Okay,
of the
great,
not
great.
regime of the thing. So please, yeah, I'm just I say
Okay,
it
but
as
where are
person
you
on the ground.
now? Where are you?
I'm in Northern California, but I'm from Beit Hanina. If you know Beit Hanina.
That's Nasir. And Jeff, where is he?
Oh, okay.
Where is he? No?
He's
Joseph?
in Los Angeles.
Joseph, yeah.
Los
Yes,
Angeles.
I'm in Los Angeles.
Los Angeles. Yeah, Los
Yes.
Angeles is
I
good, but
just I just arrived from the area. I just arrived there.
Okay.
3 or 4 days ago.
We'll stay in touch and thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Thank you guys. Take care.
All right.
See you next time.
Can I say one sentence,
Oh, hi,
Joseph? Just
Olivia.
one sentence. Hi. Sorry, my voice is a bit croaky. I think one of the reasons why American politicians are uninterested in what you're doing and you don't get, any response from them is pretty simple. They owe their election results to donations from various lobby groups. And we know what these lobby groups are. So if they go along with what you say and in some way go against the Israeli state, that means bye-bye Congress. Bye-bye Congress. I won't get re-elected next time I run for office. End of story. I think it's the American people have got to wake up to the deep corruption of their system. Congress has, it would seem, the lobbies have bought Congress. Congress is in their pockets. Shlomo knows all about this. And the person himself and his colleagues in Code Pink, they run after Congress members. And I saw that little clip, Shlomo, of what is her name? Her name escapes me at the moment. The head of the person who founded Code Pink, running after a Congress member just to talk, just to exchange with her. And she was immediately accused of being a Jew hater or all this rubbish, all this absolute rubbish. So that seems to be a huge problem with American politicians. Congress has bought the whole blinking lot of them. I don't like to, taint them all with the same brush. It sounds unfair. There may be a few honest ones. There may be lots of honest ones, but but they seem to be joined at the hip to Israel. I think this is the problem. But the money will run out because there's a very big crisis. There's what, 36, what is the debt? It's 36. I get a bit mixed up with the zeros. 36 something billion, 36,000 billion. This is a huge public debt slash GDP. So, you know, the spigot is going to be turned off one day. Money is running out. And so there won't be all this money, we hope, for Israel. And I honestly think one space for everybody and to focus on equality and justice for everybody is the way forward. But getting there might mean civil war, might mean bloodshed, you know, and I think it probably will. Israel is committing suicide. Israel has been committing suicide for a long time. And, you know, it's terribly sad to see that. Terribly sad to see that Palestinians have been slaughtered as we speak. Just sort of, you know, a killing spree, you know, 24 hours a day. Goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. It's totally revolting. I'm sorry, I've just got to go. I've turned off the, otherwise my
All
pastor
of
will
us
be
have
over.
to go, I think.
Shlomo?
Yeah,
But I thank our guests.
first of all,
And I thank Joseph for his huge effort. Joseph is absolutely wonderful, and we all have immense respect for Joseph. Immense respect for Joseph. And Nasir and everybody. So do take care, Joseph. See you next time. See you next time, Joseph. Take care.
Thank you. Please, yes, thank you so much.
yeah, apologies.
Olivia, thank you so much. Hi, Shlomo, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, if I can, I apologize for my camera is not working. I had to Zoom threw me out, and then now I'm back in 3 screens. Anyway, very quickly, no, these people who didn't come, especially Yanis Varoufakis, it's not because they don't want peace, but they are all on edge, looking at Gaza, even the West Bank, but looking at Gaza. The whole sane world is how to say it? It can be. It's unspeakable, unbelievable what we see, what Israel is doing, and with this kind of, it's like you go to a guy who is totally insane, totally lunatic, doesn't control anything he's doing, and you come to him and say, "Let's make peace." The guy is totally insane. I mean, you cannot make peace with insanity. And that's, I think, what why Yanis was not positive, even though, well, he's doing something similar to IPC in Europe with the DM25, etc. So yeah, so it's not. I think what you are doing and what we are doing is also insane. We are trying to make peace and to have solution to situation between two people when one people is there is nobody to talk to. You were in Israel. Okay, how many Israelis are now joining us here? It's we are making peace in America, yes, between you and I and Nasir and our friends, but not in the Middle East.
Look, I agree with you. I think that Israelis lack imagination. They will not participate in something beyond their imagination, and this is beyond their imagination. But you know. Science fiction movies did not start in Israel, but they became very popular in Israel. I think that if we take the initiative to actually demonstrate to them that this is not imagination, this could convert into reality, both Palestinians and Israelis will participate. But they are not going to be the engine that makes it happen. Because they are so swamped with 24/7 propaganda that they are incapable of seeing things outside of what was being fed to them.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but yeah, we can do what we can do here in this
Look,
code.
you know, many of the supporters, we don't have many supporters, but many of those supporters agree that the people in the U.S. will be a lot of people in the U.S. are looking for a way to resolve this. They are even Jews who supported Israel in the past are embarrassed. Many are embarrassed. And if we are able to build a movement, they will see a way, a dignified way for them to continue their engagement with the state of Israel as a fair and equal constitutional place that they can be proud of. And so would Palestinians in America too.
Yeah, I agree. This is a dream, and everything starts.
You know, many Palestinians are not happy with October 7th. You know, they are also looking for a way out and a way to have dignity for themselves and the people in Israel, Palestine. The Israeli government is not giving dignity to Jews or in America. So does the Palestinian governments. Do not really give dignity to Palestinians all over they're looking for a way, both sides, not everyone, but there are hundreds of thousands of Palestinians and Israelis, Jews and Muslim, who are looking for a dignified way out of this mess that was created by, you know, Nasir doesn't like me to say that they are illegitimate government, but it's not, you know, pointing to reality is not a sin. You know, you can't be all acting all angry and upset when the truth is being told to you.
They are not only illegitimate, they are the enemy of the people.
Right. So why do we need to be so you know, diplomatic and so sensitive about their feelings when they're the enemy of the people?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. Please come to the future simulations. We need support. We need more people to come in, and tell your friends to come in. And you know, we had some important people here today, and people that do think globally. You know, so all right.
Yes.
Thank you all, and we'll see you in the next simulation.
Yeah. Thank you, Joseph.